It's a me Luigi Marinus Gaming, and today I'm gonna review on Disney and Pixar's movie Luca. And Figaro edits, you're gonna love this video because it's one of your favorite movies. Anyway, so the story of Luca is about this sea monster fish boy named Luca, of course, who lives under the sea with his family: Daniela Paguro, his mom, Lorenzo Paguro, his dad, and Grandma Paguro, who actually doesn't really have a name funny enough. They have one rule: to not go above the surface. One day, Luca meets Alberto Scorfano, a fellow sea monster child who lives alone above the surface, claiming that his father simply isn't around much. Alberto encourages Luca to adventure out of the ocean, showing him that sea monsters look exactly human when dry, but return to their true forms when wet. Luca follows Alberto to his hideout, where the boys connect while making and riding a makeshift, fragile Vespa. Upon discovering their son's actions, Luca's parents plan to send Luca to live in the deep sea with his uncle Ugo. In retaliation, Luca and Alberto run away to Porto Rosso to find a Vespa and travel the world. The story is a little bit like The Little Mermaid mixed with Wreck-It Ralph 2. The Little Mermaid part is about how Luca can't go out of the water and is curious about the human stuff and gets warned by his parents to not go above the surface. I do think it's probably a bit better than The Little Mermaid, though, since I think it's more rewatchable. While the Wreck-It Ralph 2 part is when Luca meets a boy and had become friends with the need to get money for a Vespa, kinda like when Ralph and Vanellope need money for a steering wheel. It's a bit different to those movies, though, but I do think the story has a few cliches that holds it back, like it kinda has a similar story to Hotel Transylvania or Monsters Incorporated, where the boys have to hide their true identity. And I guess also a bit like Coco as well. But what I do like about the movie a lot is the heart and the message about friendship and growing up. Luca is like a coming-of-age story, and I liked how it was done. Although I will admit turning Red and Inside Out did it better. The boys run afoul of Ercole Visconti, a local bully and repeat champion of the Porto Rosso Cup race, but Julia Marcavaldo, a young girl, helps them escape. In hopes of winning the money needed for a Vespa, the boys and Julia form a team for the triathlon, which involves swimming, pasta eating, and biking. Unable to swim without revealing themselves, Luca and Alberto respectively take on the biking and pasta eating races, while Julia takes the swimming race. Ercole vows to beat the group. I liked Ercole as a villain. At first he was treated like your average bully, but during the climax of the movie becomes more crazier and insane. But I like that Pixar didn't make a plot twist villain for this movie. Just a bully that is already revealed as a villain because he literally says he's going to hunt for a sea monster. So you can't go more obvious than that. But I like how it was never meant to be a surprise. Even though I don't mind plot twist villains in Pixar movies, I think it's a nice change that they don't try to make a surprise villain. Even in their next movie, Inside Out 2, it seems to go through the same route, where they already reveal Anxiety is a villain. Anyway, so Alberto and Luca meet Massimo, Giulia's father, which is a sea monster hunter, and talks to Giulia about the race. I like the detail where it looks like they're in a different room, but it gets revealed that they're still in the same room with Luca and Alberto once they get to talk. The movie also looks very different to most Pixar movies, with more cartoony animation style and character designs. It kinda took me a while to get used to the new animation style that Pixar is making. Like, I never thought Pixar would change their animation style in their animated movies. For DreamWorks, Sony Pictures Animation, Warner Animation Group, and Illumination, I guess it's okay, but for Pixar I always thought their realistic animation style and cartoony animation style from before were good enough, like Inside Out, Onward, Monsters Incorporated, and University, The Incredibles movies, Up, Ratatouille, Cars, and the Toy Story movies. But then again, I kinda get used to the new animation style of Luca, turning Red and Elio. Like, it's not their best animation because some character designs and animation can look a bit off, but the animation style still looks beautiful. Luca's parents head to the surface to find their son. Julia teaches Luca about school, and the two bond over a love of learning, especially about astronomy. Alberto becomes jealous of Luca and Julia's growing friendship. This part kinda depicted that Alberto was probably gay for Luca. And there are some theories about it, but I don't get why Alberto was so jealous about their friendship. Like, it was very later on in the movie and it was never addressed until then. When Luca starts ignoring Alberto's advice, and tries changing their plans to going to school instead of traveling, he and Alberto fight. In anger, Alberto deliberately reveals his true form to Julia. Luca feigns surprise at the transformation, and heartbroken Alberto is driven off by Ercole. Julia later deliberately splashes water on Luca and sees his true identity. She sends him away for his own good. Honestly, the third act breakup is actually not that bad in my opinion. Usually in animated movies, you would see people get angry at each other, but I thought it was well done. Maybe except for the one with Alberto, because that one felt forced, but Luca's true form being revealed and Julia just being sad was actually something unexpected even from Pixar. Luca attempts to reconcile with Alberto, and discovers that Alberto's father deliberately abandoned him long ago, making Alberto think he was a bad kid who should not have friends. I thought that scene was really sad, and I kinda understand them because I sometimes think so too, since I also get bullied sometimes. Luca sets out to win the Vespa on his own, to make things right. After several mishaps, Luca takes the lead in the bicycle race, but is forced to take shelter when it starts to rain. Alberto arrives with an umbrella, but Ercole knocks it away and both boys are revealed as sea monsters. They flee Ercole, who now intends to harpoon them. Julia helps by smashing her bike into Ercole's, but she is injured. Luca and Alberto turn back to help her, and are defended from monster hunters by Massimo, who reveals that the boys are his friends. He also points out they have crossed the finish line and won the race. Other disguised sea monsters reveal themselves, including Luca's family, and the townsfolk happily welcome them. Meanwhile, Ercole is humiliated by his henchmen, who were fed up with his abuse. I really liked this scene, although I thought it was a bit easy for them to accept the sea monsters, but still a great scene overall. Luca and Alberto got to buy a Vespa, but later sells it for a train ticket for Luca. Luca takes the train with Julia to go to school with her, and Massimo becomes the father Alberto never had. I thought Luca and Alberto's friendship was very cute and wholesome. While Luca may feel different from most Pixar movies, except for the two main characters Luca and Alberto, which do feel like an iconic Pixar duo, I still think this movie was actually really great. I thought this movie really grew on me as well. Admittedly, I do think Turning Red or Ruby Gillman are way better in my opinion, because I thought Ruby Gillman had more underwater scenes, and Turning Red had a better story about self-discovery. But again, that's not really saying much, and I honestly think Luca is starting to become an underrated Pixar movie, since I don't hear many people talk about it anymore, which is kinda sad because sometimes simple movies can be better, and this is a good example in my opinion. I thought this movie was better than Encanto, which wasn't by Pixar but also had a simple story, but this movie was more simple, but in a better way. I thought the execution was better. Even though I didn't think the world building of Luca was impressive, since everything is small, at least there was more to explore because Encanto only took place in a house. But as much as I love this movie, I still think Luca is the weakest Pixar movie of the 2020s, but I still give it a 9 out of 10. It's the weakest Pixar movie of the 2020s, yet it still gets a 9, which is a great track record, if you ask me. It's not as adventurous as Onward, as thought-provoking as Soul, as exploratory as Turning Red, as epic as Lightyear, or as impressive as Elemental, but it's still a great Pixar movie. As for my next review, shall be Inside Out 2. But I hope you enjoyed my review of Disney Pixar's Luca, and share this video with your friends and family.